Won't a run for governor of Ondo State be a best bet for you, right?
If I'd stayed in Ondo State as a governor and the president of Nigeria is an idiot, he will kill your idea of trying to develop Ondo State. Some of the greatest leaders in the world didn't have to go to a local government or a state government to make them work. They govern nations.
However, for the state governor of Ondo State, where you can make massive...
But Ondo State's governorship is also beneath me. I'm trying to change Nigeria. I'm not trying to change a section of Nigeria. To be thinking about 1 million people when I have 200 million people that my ideas can take care of, can take them out of poverty, grow fast, and then stick all my ideas within Ondo State. That means I've not learned anything. That means my education, my worldview has not changed.
Nigeria is a very complex country.
It's not complex. This is why I disagree with you. Nigeria is not a complex nation. See, in the hands of incompetent people, everything is complex. Why don't the best go for the lowest rank and the idiots can then control the country? You want your best to go and start small, but you want the worst to get the best positions in your country. And that's why you are here. If you stay 2 days in your local government today, you are going to be restless. Yeah, you might have some kind of euphoria to go back to the village, but the girls who used to be like attracted to you in the village when you lived in the village are not the kind of girls that you get attracted to. The further you go into the world, the more exposed you are, the more powerful your ideas can become. It's just like we joke about it, like those people left Nigeria didn't leave. If it's not for you, I don't have this. I would have dismissed it a long time ago because it has no value in where I aspire towards or how I aspire.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm a big fan. I want to start with a difficult question, really. When last did you see your wife and your kids?
It'll be July 2019. That was when I bid them goodbye on my way to Nigeria. I visited the US after the election in February, and I came back shortly after that, and then went back. And this was in July. I came back again and that's the final time I saw them before I went to the airport.
So that's like 3 years ago?
Probably more than 3 years now, yes.
The reason I ask is because I think that was last week or last 2 weeks I saw on your Instagram account an emotional video you put out.
Yes.
I can't imagine how difficult it is, not to see your family, your wife, your kids. And I think you said the DSS has your passport as well.
Yes, I've been, after my arrest in August, they took me to court and a judge gave an order that my passport should be deposited with the court registry.
Okay.
All based on false allegations.
Yeah. And
the judge also restricted me to Nigeria. And restricted me to Abuja.
Yes.
And I spent almost some 3 years restricted to Abuja, unable to travel out of Abuja. And we went to court, the Court of Appeal, to ask them to set aside all these very draconian conditions, bail conditions, and the Court of Appeal didn't find it wise to release my passport. So I was only granted that right to travel out of Abuja, not to leave Nigeria. So they are still in possession of my expired passport.
So I imagine, I know that obviously the federal government has their reasons, right? Like I believe they see you as a threat. But coming back to the issue of family and trying to relate it to my second question, which goes to the issue of the locality of not just politics but also life in general. The first step begins from the family.
That's right.
That local nature, right? And one of the things I've tried to square with you is I keep on asking myself, someone of your talent, someone that has the amount of ideas you have, great ideas, if I may say, won't a run for governor of Ondo State be a best bet for you, right? Because you have all these ideas that they've not really been tested or tried before in Nigeria. Won't Ondo State be like a liquid test for these ideas? So, for example, you would say You've been governor for Ondo State for 8 years. You've tried these ideas. You know what works. You know what does not work. Then when you're going for presidency, you can be like, look at what happened in Ondo State for 8 years. Look at how we transformed Ondo State. We can replicate those same ideas, those same actions to the whole of Nigeria. But what would you say? Like, why not begin at that local level?
That's not the nature of big ideas. Big ideas are, a set of issues. A set of very powerful elements of the human thought that require space, time, and they're not limited to any particular geography.
Yeah.
If you limit it to a geography, you'll kill the idea, because ideas are espoused in time and space.
Yeah.
And if I'd stayed in Ondo State as a governor, and the president of Nigeria is an idiot, he will kill your idea of trying to develop Ondo State or trying to, create an imaginary Ondo State that's better than Nigeria.
Yeah.
Let's even assume that they don't kill it. Then you have an Ondo State that is a Christmas tree at night. The rest of Nigeria will kill the Christmas. They'll come and take away the Christmas trees, because then this bright idea is, is surrounded by energy-sucking negative ideas that says, a good idea cannot exist in isolation. It has to be surrounded by other positive ideas so that these ideas themselves can thrive. That's number one. The second aspect of it is that there is no law, either natural or man-made, that says an idea must be limited to any particular space. The third aspect of this, my repudiation of staying in a small place, is that my own kind of ideas are not the ones that needs to be tested in any particular space. I'm not trying to experiment. These ideas are ideas that I know could make things work, and I can make Nigeria nation a great nation. That is why those other candidates that you see who have governed for 8 years, certain government spaces, are struggling to defend their own records. I don't have to, because I know my ideas can work. My ideas have been tested theoretically. They've been tested practically everywhere. And I'm only saying that I should be invited here. And I've tested them in my own life, by way of travel, by way of understanding of the world, by way of teaching. So ideas are not limited to people driving around a convoy of cars. And, what do I call it? Claiming that they've changed the world or changed the environment when nothing has happened in those places. So I took time to explain this to you so that you can just completely forget about this governed limited space idea of testing ideas. Some of the greatest leaders in the world in history, they didn't have to go to a local government or a state government to make them work. They govern nations. And these nations are living testimony to what big ideas and powerful ideas can do. People who invented stuff, like aeroplane, who invented the television, they didn't invent them so that they could only watch it within their own family sector before they're tested. And then they said, okay, yes, now that it's worked in my family, let's ship it to another family. They brought the idea together. They produced something out of it, and it went out all at once, and the world embraced it. That's the nature and power of ideas. But the moment you limit an idea to one sect or one section or one sector or its particular space, then it is no longer an idea.
I think it's not just the issue of limiting the ideas. I think it's also the issue of the fact that every politics is local, right?
Yes.
So, for example, I mean, you've been in the US.
Yes.
I've also been to the UK. In the UK, for example, you have local councils.
Yes.
The importance of those local councils cannot be overstressed.
That's right.
So, for example, the local council is involved in healthcare. The local council is involved in social services, taking out your trash from your house. the school your kids go to, that's the job of the local council.
Yes.
So I'm not even saying that you should go and become local government chairman.
It doesn't matter.
I think that's beneath you.
Yeah.
However, for the state governor of Ondo State, where you can make massive...
But Ondo State governorship is also beneath me. Do you know why I want to tell you?
Yeah.
I had an idea in 2018.
Yes.
And it had to do with the controversial idea of Ondo State developing the cannabis industry.
Okay.
The governor of Ondo State got the idea from me and went to Malaysia to find out how to refine cannabis.
Yes.
And wanted to bring a cannabis refinery to Ondo State.
Yes.
But that was months after I spoke to him about the idea. It turns out he's never heard about the idea before. So he heard it from me first, but in order to cover it up, that this is from Sowore, he then traveled to another part of the world. But here is why ideas are very important, that they are tested within space. Is that when he got to a point, he was stuck with the idea because the national government already said you can't do this. You can't generate revenue from cannabis. It's an illegal substance, drug. If he was president, he wouldn't have that exuberance. Yes. That's why people with big ideas don't limit themselves to small spaces.
Yeah, let me take you to an example.
You can't have a small mind that can power a big idea.
Yeah. So
a lot of people who are running Nigeria are small-minded people.
Yes.
I don't have a small mind.
I agree. And me too. But let me take you back to an interview you did, and you made mention of the fact that, so for example, federal minimum wage, right?
Yes.
You yourself acknowledge the fact that a federal minimum wage will only apply to federal workers. And I remember in that interview you said that it will be up to the state governors to implement a minimum wage in their states.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, going back, because I really want to extensively discuss this issue with you, because I believe that a bottom-up approach is better than a top-down approach to solving Nigeria's issues, right? Yeah. So let's say, for example, you were governor of Ondo State, introduce a minimum wage in Ondo State, for example. I think your example you gave was 100,000 naira per month.
Yes.
Right?
Not for Ondo State, nationally.
Yes, nationally, but let's now.
And that is, for me now, that has been overtaken by
obviously
events.
Inflation and everything, yes. So let's say, for example, Ondo State Governor Sowore, you implement 200,000 naira per month for everybody in Ondo State that is working, that's eligible to work.
Yes.
That alone is a massive difference. The federal government, like you acknowledged in that interview, will not be able to.
You know how many workers there are in Ondo State?
How many?
I don't know.
Okay.
But let's say that maybe there are 3,000.
Yes.
Oh, let's say 5,000. Implementing a minimum wage of 200,000 applied to 5,000 state workers is not even a drop in the bucket. That is why ideas need to move to powerful and big spaces for implementation. Yeah. So it will not have any impact on Nigerians. Yeah. I'm trying to change Nigeria. I'm not trying to change a section of Nigeria. That's my focus. You must also understand where my ideas are coming from and where they are focused. I have a laser beam, on Nigeria. If you now ask me to point a laser beam to a section of Nigeria, you have ruined the idea ab initio. Like from the beginning, you have destroyed your idea because of your inability to understand how ideas work and how they change society. And that's where I'm coming from. Like, when I was growing up, my father was a teacher. Because I was living in a village, my entire goal in life was to become a principal. To me, I was like, well, that would be an added, opportunity for me. So why was my idea limited to becoming a principal? Because of my worldview, my space. My space was a village setting. And it could not, my brain could not accommodate anything bigger than a teacher's son who becomes a principal, which would be big deal by virtue of my own village environment where I grew up. But by the time I got to the university, the idea had been thrown out of the window, even before my first 1 week as a freshman, right? Reason was that I was no longer in Ondo State. I was now in Lagos. And my idea, my mindset changed because I found myself in a different space. Yeah. You understand? By the time I was done at the University of Lagos, I just wanted to be a government worker. I wanted to be a town planner, in a town council. It's just planned a small space. I was thinking about, maybe I could work at the Lagos town planning units. That was as of my second year. That was what I was looking at. By the fourth year, that idea also had gone out of the window because I had been attacked by situational variables. Yeah. I was now looking at becoming, a world citizen, a global citizen. Yeah. Being a global citizen was my idea by the year 1999 when I was leaving Nigeria to go to the US. I go to the US, my environment, my circumstances, my life had changed. When I finished at the US with a master's degree in public admin, I was thinking about working at the New York, New Jersey Transport Authority space, right? By the time I was done with school, internet had come. September 11 had changed the world. So I had a different worldview. I didn't want to work anymore, 9 to 5. What did I do? I went and created an internet space, website, news website, that also exploded and advanced my idea of what news reporting should be, and how I could, through an African reporting platform, become a global brand. And I achieved that. So I've just given you a number of examples that has shaped my life. And what shaped my life on the other end are the ideas of people who don't think small. That's how I got here. So to live on those State, travel to America and 30 other countries, and then come back to be thinking on those States, it means that I haven't achieved much in terms of expansion of, what the human brain is capable of doing. To be thinking about 1 million people when I have 200 million people that my ideas can take care of, can take them out of poverty, can put them in the job market, can make them have fundamental, solid healthcare system that can make them, grow fast, and then stick all my ideas within Ondo State. That means I've not learned anything. That means my education, my worldview has not changed. So, and I don't get defensive about this. I just pity those who feel like you must be restricted, because the restriction that is being advocated has nothing to do about development. It is other people who have very limited view of the world who feel like they should cage you within their own box of thinking and philosophy. And I have always rejected that in my life.
Yeah, I agree that you have to refuse to, be confined to a space.
Yes.
However, going back to this issue, there are numerous great things that you can achieve at that local level. One of the reasons why I go back to this is that Nigeria is a very complex country.
It's not complex. This is why I disagree with you. Nigeria is not a complex nation.
So Nigeria is easy, and
it's see, in the hands of incompetent people, everything is complex. It's just like I'm not using the analogy to insult people with living with disability. It's just like a leprous finger. If you keep a cup of tea within a set of lip, it can't hold it. And that's what is happening with Nigerian leadership. Part of the agenda of those who have mismanaged Nigeria is to make everybody believe that Nigeria is complex. That is why we're not able to progress. Because they want to also, it's part of this limitation you're talking about. They want to limit the citizen to a certain level of expectation that doesn't think about progress, like exponential progress. And other nations who don't limit themselves are making that exponential progress. Israel is not as big as Nigeria, right? It could be complex because it's surrounded by its enemies. But how is it that they're able to survive and they're contributing largely to global scientific discovery? And do you know how many persons out of Israel have gotten the Nobel Prize? You understand? Nigeria, the last time we got one was 1986, and 200 million of us. I don't know the population of Israel on top of my head right here. But why is it that people who don't limit themselves, that's the kind of exponential progress they make? It is the brand of leadership we have in Nigeria And the way Nigeria has been governed over these years, that is making you stay on top of this question. Like, why don't the best go for the lowest rank, and the idiots can then control the country?
Yeah.
And I'm free to say that, because that's exactly the problem. You want your best to go and start small, but you want the worst to get the best positions in your country, and that's why you are here. Somebody's going to tell you that after 7 years in the UK, that you cannot govern more than a local government. When, as a matter of fact, if you stay 2 days in your local government today, you are going to be restless.
Yes.
Not because it's unsafe, but it's because you have outgrown the village.
I was there recently.
Exactly.
So, yes,
So it's you might have some kind of euphoria to go back to the village.
Yeah.
But the girls who used to be attracted to you in the village when you lived in the village are not the kind of girls that you get attracted to.
Of course.
After this year.
Yes,
Sometimes you'll be asking, where's that girl? And then you see her like, oh my God, I can't believe I had a crush on this one. And I'm using that example not to denigrate anyone. But it's because the further you go into the world, the more exposed you are, the more powerful your ideas can become. There are also a lot of people who have been to where I have been, who are stuck in the Nigerian box. It's just like we joke about it, like those people left Nigeria didn't leave them.
Of course,
So, and you see them on the streets of London. Behaving the same way people behave in Nigeria. See them in the US behaving the same way some localities behave here. So what I'm explaining to you is that philosophically, and intentionally, people grow beyond limitations, and I'm one of those, because I've been through a lot in life to know that the human spirit is powerful. It's just like any human body, with a very positive spirit, can push itself to any level. I use running marathons as I started running marathons in 2013. Before 2013, the guy who introduced me to marathon, I used to think in my mind that he's crazy. Because, one day I went to bring him from the Berlin Marathon. He fell asleep in the car. He woke up in the night, and I said, what's pushing you all around the world running? Don't you have anything to do with your life? He said, no. Why don't you try it out? By the time I started it, I was like, wow, this is a whole new spectrum of human physical power. But if you don't push it, you can never get it. If you have the belief that you can run 1 mile, you won't be able to do a mile. But I did marathon. I've done marathon 8 different times after I was introduced to it. Because why? I imbibed that belief that the human body can be pushed to its limits only if you apply the idea that there's all parts of your body can work to achieve that goal. And that's why I'm different. And that's why I don't usually, if it's not for you, I don't have this. I would have dismissed it a long time ago, because it has no value in where I aspire towards or how I aspire in life, and where I think our country should be.
So keep